Hi, so this is my video on the good things about suffering. Now, I'm not talking about suffering in the temporal sense. Suffering can be something like, well, I lost my job, I have a headache today, I stubbed my toe, my kids don't like me very much. Things that can be fixed in a natural sense. But there's a lot of stuff that you cannot fix in a natural sense. You can't fix cancer. You might be able to kind of fix it, but you can't fix terminal deformities. You can't fix terminal diseases. The terminal suffering is what I'm getting at here. And I know kind of a lot about this. My father had a terminal illness called Parkinson's disease. It was early onset. He suffered with it for decades. My mom has had terminal illnesses. It has shaped her entire life, and it's shaped her kids' lives, and it's shaped her faith. It's shaped everything. My brother Joseph is developmentally disabled, and so he'll never be healed or fixed or be able to get rid of his developmental disability. My son Aaron is severely developmentally disabled. I have scoliosis. I'm not going to be able to fix my scoliosis. I need to manage it properly. These are all terminal illnesses. I am very familiar with terminal illnesses, and believe me when I've said I have looked through the Bible and used to treat it like a book of spells, claiming and doing whatever to get rid of these problems. And I've realized over a long period of time that suffering is a means for us to prove our allegiance to God. And so let's go through that. I want to tell you that there is value in suffering. We should try to solve all temporary sufferings. We should try to alleviate the suffering of other people, especially our neighbors, our family members, and stuff like that. But when we are suffering inside, it is a chance for us to prove that we really do believe in God, and a chance for us to grow our character. And the character growth is extremely important. Character, I like to call it virtue. Virtue, building virtuous habits, virtuous acts is something I wrote a book on. And so I watching my own video here. This is me editing my video. I wrote the book on virtue. That's not what I'm trying to say here, okay? I'm striving to be a virtuous person. Let's leave it at that. Because virtuous character is the character of God. And if we're not exploiting our animal instincts, we are refraining from our animal instincts, and we are acting in a way that is beyond human, in a way that God encourages his children to act. So we should be virtuous people. Suffering produces virtue when we are faithful in following God's design or God's mode of operation, or we follow his teaching to be virtuous. So when you are suffering, it proves that you have a relationship with God. But that could be a bad relationship with God. You might blame God for your suffering, or you might accept that God's will be done in your suffering, and thereby show that you have allegiance to God instead of animosity towards God. So one way or another, your suffering is going to prove your relationship with God. So it is a struggle to maintain your faith when you know there is no human hope that you're going to alleviate your suffering in any other way except for have peace through suffering. Have a way of maintaining your fortitude, your virtue while you suffer. And it's so simple. It's so obvious. People go through extreme lengths to torture themselves to become stronger people. They go through the suffering of college. They go through the suffering of the gym. They go through all kinds of anguish in order to accomplish whatever goals or ambitions they have. It proves the kind of person you are. So there should be I shouldn't need to talk about this any longer. So when suffering is temporary, when it's temporal suffering, you lost your job, you've had a broken heart, you've got a divorce, something like that happens to you, and it's not your fault at all. So you're suffering unjustly. You feel like this did not come from any choice of my own. Roll the dice. Somebody else has harmed you, shortchanged by something. It's not fair. These are temporal sufferings. When you know that through your own personal perseverance, you can overcome this and become out a better person, you can use it to become stronger. That's temporal suffering. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But some things will absolutely kill you. Some things you cannot get rid of. I'm watching myself talk about this and realizing that it's really just an experiment that I'm playing out in my own mind I don't have any other motivation left to keep maintaining hopeless conditions and terminal illnesses other than what I'm talking about here. Like, this is literally the way it's working for me, so I figured I'd share it. It's not like, I don't think anybody can really, until after the entire process, tell somebody else, look at how much better I've gotten. You know it yourself. You have improved yourself. You know the decisions, you know the tough things that you've gone through mentally to maintain whatever struggle you're maintaining. And so this is a proof for yourself. It's for you. It turns your suffering into something that maintains your faith and keeps you going, because you know, okay, I'm not the same person I was, and I think I'm better off. So that's the character turns into hope. My son is born with it, incredibly terminal. He'll never be healed outside of God's own absolute miraculous providence. He's stuck in a wheelchair. I have to change his diapers night and day. He throws up on foods that you and I could chew and eat. Just a lot of suffering. There's a lot of maintaining Aaron's condition, and there's no hope. Nobody is ever going to solve Aaron's problems. We're gonna find ways to maintain his happiness and his health throughout this terminal problem that he has until the end of his life, and hopefully he dies a happy Aaron. But in the meantime, I've got to figure out ways to remain positive and patient and kind and build my virtue in spite of having to take care of somebody who has a developmental disability. All other people bear all kinds of things, but I'm just describing my lane of suffering. So I have to reach out of myself and reach onto something that's not temporal, that's something that's internal, in order to handle the inescapable suffering that's going to come from helping Aaron live a happy life. If you're facing a terminal suffering, then you need something outside of yourself to maintain hope in the face of despair. And that's why I talk about the value of suffering here. Let's get on to the value of that. So there's one verse we're going to read. It is Romans chapter 5, and it's part of verse 3 leading to verse 4. It says, we rejoice in our sufferings. I don't. I'm supposed to rejoice in this. Rarely ever happens. Okay, so this is a big struggle for me. I don't rejoice in my sufferings. I mentally understand that there's a reward for the suffering, but do I rejoice in it? No. Ask my kids, ask my wife. I'm a whiner, I'm a complainer, it sucks. But I know we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Hope in what? This long train of benefits here. Sufferings produces endurance, character produces hope. How does this work? Your sufferings prove that if you're building endurance and you're building character, your hope is not a false hope. You are being built into something because you can look back and you can see that you've endured. You can look back and see that you have character. And if you've endured and you have character, then the faith that you put in God is not without hope. You are proving to yourself that you are truly a believer in Christ Jesus. That's the truth. Because you know the pain. You know the pain from the endurance. You know the frustration from having to go through a terminal problem. And you know that your character is being buffeted all the time. You want to quit. You hate it. It's like, once again, I got to clean up the puke from the kid who keeps puking everywhere. I have to change these diapers again. Oh my goodness, I'm so sick of changing diapers. Adult diapers, changing adult diapers is terrible. I wish it on no one. But if your character is improving while you're going through the problem, then you have a hope greater than yourself, and your endurance is true, and only you can know this. Everybody else can kind of see it, but you know it because it sucks. And it's somehow gonna be okay. So that's what I'm telling you. Your suffering has value. The other value of suffering is that you can alleviate somebody else's suffering. Does that just make you feel good? No, it's a promise that you're going to go to heaven. I think this is the stupidest thing. Our preachers, our churches are all ass backwards. Okay, they're screwed up. They get it all wrong, okay? What they do is they have a sermon telling everybody, hey, you're a sinner and you need saved. Well, duh, everybody knows they're a sinner. Everybody knows that they do things are wrong. Oh, all you gotta do is repent and believe in Jesus. You'll go to heaven. That's not true. That's like half the story, okay? That's half the story. You're supposed to be a different person. You're supposed to repent and call Jesus the Lord. So you're supposed to you're supposed to have allegiance to him. Allegiance that bypasses all other allegiance, which means it's gonna cost you something, okay? But the preachers don't say that. They just want everybody to be happy. They want everybody to sit in church and be all like wonderful. Anyway, this is a huge rabbit trail. Let's get back to suffering. Jesus tells people how to be saved. He says there's sheep and there's goats. And the sheep are the people who go out and help other people in their suffering. Hey, you know what you should do? You should go clothe the naked. That's the sheep. You know what you should do? You should go feed the hungry. That's the sheep. You should go visit people in the prison. That's the sheep. And the goats, who have never done anything like that all their entire lives, they go to hell. It's that simple. Go read the Bible. Look up the parable of the sheep and the goats. It's not a parable. It's literally Jesus saying how you go to heaven and how you avoid hell. And he's going to separate people into sheep and goats. And at the end of time, he's going to judge them. And he's never going to get it wrong. He's never going to confuse a sheep from a goat. It's just not going to happen. But you can be tricked. You can think to yourself, I'm going to alleviate my own suffering instead of alleviating the suffering of others. But if you alleviate the suffering of others in faith, you have allegiance to Jesus, and that's valuable. So when you see someone suffering, fix it. Fix it for Jesus' sake, and you have proved your faith. Boom. It's going to cost you something. Same thing, suffering costs you something, but it has great value. Suffer because of your allegiance to Jesus. Build your character. Has value. Suffer because you're helping somebody else in their suffering, you're sharing the suffering, that has value. You've proved your allegiance to Jesus, and I'll see you up there. Cool? Hey, guess what? The middle of the video is actually probably the best end of the video. But if you want to keep listening, I kind of go on a little bit of a rant of them preachers who preach crazy stuff about faith healing. So it's up to you if you want to keep listening, or you don't really need to. So somebody might say, well, you know, the Bible has all these verses about healing. We should want to be healed. Yeah, you should want to be healed. Go to the doctor. How many people pray for Aaron? How many people prayed for my dad? My dad and my mom, they ran off to every single faith healer. They did all kinds of stuff. They confessed everything. My dad died of Parkinson's disease. So what happens? That destroys people's faith. You see what that does? They're like, the Bible said A, and when it said A, it said I would get B, and I never got B. So A is screwed up. They've got to deal with that. So they're in a constant state of confusion, chasing their dreams and their hopes and trying to escape their terminal suffering. It's terrible. It's a terrible position to be desperate for healing. And unfortunately, people take advantage of that. So preachers who do this are like, they're probably well-meaning, but they're absolutely confused. And they should absolutely stop turning the Bible into a spell book where people cast incantations on themselves and everybody else, believing in some miraculous outcome. It's completely bunk. It's completely false. It never happens. And the Bible shows you that it's completely ridiculous. Okay? They'd say something like, well, imagine if somebody got healed. Imagine how many people would be saved. They won't have allegiance to Jesus. They'll just believe that he's real. That's totally different. You remember in the Old Testament when the Israelites would see all of the plagues that God brought on the people of Egypt? All the plagues, horrible plagues. The last one was that God killed the firstborn son. Just like, it was fair because, Pharaoh threw all their kids into the Nile River. Remember that? So it was fair, but it was like God was showing his absolute power. I'm going to destroy the entire nation of Egypt. And then later on, they get weak knees and they don't want to go fight the giants. And God's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sick of this. And over and over and over again, the Israelites showed that even though God did unbelievably miraculous things, they were not in allegiance to him. They just wanted a free ride. Same thing. What if Aaron jumped out of his wheelchair? What if my son was just in the morning, he just stood up and walked, and I could finally play video games with him like I do with all my other kids. I could finally take him to do fun things, and we could have great discussions, Aaron and I, but he doesn't have any discussions. He just goes, all day long, and he makes crazy noises, and it makes everybody crazy. What if that happened? Wouldn't everybody believe in Jesus if that happened? No. What if God made Jesus jump out of the grave? Would that make people believe? Well, it doesn't, because it's not the solution. People have to learn to appreciate and love God and give him their allegiance freely. They can't be twisted into it. God knows that, so he just isn't going to follow that strategy. So telling people, which this preacher tried to do, telling people that, if God heals people, it brings people to faith. Bull crap. That's not what happens. It proves their claims. That's all it does. Jesus healed people. It proved that he was the Son of God. It proved it. Only Jesus could heal, raise the dead. He raised Lazarus, and the Jewish people are like, oh yeah, only God can bring the dead back to life. He gave people sight who were born blind. Only God can possibly do that. It was just like, it's a validation. He was just validating himself. That's all that was. It was a sign. It was a wonder. It was a miraculous sign. It was a wonder to prove that he was real. I don't know what's wrong with them. I just know that it's wrong. I've heard it all my life. I've heard my dad and my mom confess healing and all this stuff, and it never worked. And I had to go find it out myself. And I read the actual Bible, and I'm like, God says we're all going to die of something. You know how you die of something? You get sick. You get a terminal illness, and you die. Why would... if he decides to heal you, wonderful. But you're going to suffer. Everybody's going to suffer. So let's learn the value of suffering. So I'm going to wrap it up. You prove your faith through allegiance to God, and you maintain your character through lots of endurance, so that when you say Jesus is Lord, after you've gone through all the suffering, you can look back through the pain, through the anguish, through the endurance, through the improved character, and you'll be like, oh, Jesus really is my Lord, because I was able to maintain my character through suffering. I built virtue, and that virtue is evident. The value of suffering. It proves that your pain is actually faith.